You know something that's really hard to do? Validate an emotion that you don't understand. Ever been around someone experiencing a big emotion and you don't understand it, or you think the circumstance that happened shouldn't have triggered such a big emotion? So your brain's trying to rationalize and understand the emotion. And in doing so, there's a part of you that says words like, stop feeling that way, you're overreacting, you're being silly, don't. And even when you say it out of love, do you find that that person doesn't respond necessarily well to that? So put yourself in the position of the person feeling the big emotion. So you're experiencing a big emotion and somebody comes up to you, and even out of love, somebody you care about says, you don't need to feel that way, stop, you're being silly, you're overreacting. Do you find those words helpful? When I've worked with people, they've told me no. Myself, no. I start to actually feel an adverse effect. If maybe I was feeling sad and you're telling me not to feel sad, now I'm starting to get annoyed. Who are you to tell me what to feel or what not to feel? I am feeling sad. So let's take this scenario where someone's feeling a big emotion, you're feeling it, and someone, maybe they don't understand it, but they say to you, I have felt that way too. Or they just hear you. They just listen. They support you. They just be. Do you find you start to disconnect from that person? Or do you find like, oh, they're hearing me, I'm feeling more connected? See, when people aren't hearing your emotional state and telling you not to feel a certain way, there can be that feeling of disconnect. Well, they don't really get me. But when somebody just honors your emotion, whether they can understand it or not, then you start to feel a connection, like they validate me, they get me. If you're a parent, it's the same with a child. Sometimes they'll have huge emotions and they'll seem irrational and they're all over the place. But if we can just take a moment to calm ourselves down and realize that they're feeling a huge emotion, and it is about validating that emotion as opposed to saying, don't do that, stop being that, you're overreacting, you're silly. It doesn't work with human beings because we want to feel heard, validated. That's what builds connections. That's what builds trust. It is hard to do because our rational brain wants to figure it all out. Take a breath. We're not always going to figure it out. You're not always going to figure out why every emotion is happening to you or somebody else. But what if you could just hear it? What if you could just experience listening to it? Beyond the emotion it might trigger for you. Because sometimes when other people are having emotions, it can trigger big emotions in us, especially if your kid's like having a tantrum and then you start feeling annoyed, frustrated, embarrassed, overwhelmed, sad. So we've got to work through our own emotions just so we can help them work through theirs. Validating emotions isn't about understanding them. It is just about recognizing them and practicing how to move with them and through them.